Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome to another episode of Cycling Insider. In this episode, let's talk about the giant Propel Advanced Pro 1 for the 2022 season. As you see, it's a mouthful of bike names from this giant bike. But before we start, if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please do subscribe and hit that little like button, because it's gonna help in growing the channel. And of course, for all of you who are already a subscriber, then definitely thank you. So, Giant Propel Advanced Pro 1 with a retail price of 4,600 British pounds or 5,100 euros. So first, let's answer the question, who is this bike for? So you see, Giant Propel range of bikes is all about Aero road bikes. So aerodynamically optimized frames and forks, also, seat post, stem, handlebars, wheels, everything. So they want to achieve the lowest possible drag with this bike and going as fast as possible in a straight line. So if you are looking for an aerodynamically optimized road bike, then definitely check this Giant Propel Advanced Pro 1. When it comes to the paint scheme on this bike, unfortunately there is only one paint scheme on offer. It seems to me it looks like something like metallic green, although officially they call it Starry Night with a hint of chrome, but it looks decent. There's no special complaints about it, but I wish they could have offered at least another paint scheme, because it's a very expensive bike with a retail price of 5,100 euros or 4,600 British pounds. Okay, we can now dive into the specifications of this bike and really see what do you get for your hard-earned money. As always, we will kick off with the frame and the fork on this bike. So you see, the frame is carbon fiber, advanced grade composite carbon fiber frame, and also you're gonna get advanced grade composite carbon fiber fork. This fork is a full carbon fiber fork with the Giant's own overdrive steerer. So frame and the fork, absolutely excellent. You also get a lifetime warranty from Giant. And I will just mention here that you have an internal cable routing, flat mount disc brakes, and 12mm through axles. Now let's talk about some of the smaller pieces on the bike, like the handlebar and the stem. So you see, the stem is the Giant's Contact SL Aero stem, and the handlebar is also Giant Contact SL Aero handlebar. Both of these pieces are aluminium, so I have no special complaints about it. It's perfectly fine. But the thing that I really like is that these pieces are separate. So in the future, if you need to replace them, there's nothing special proprietary about them, easy to replace. And also when you are setting up your position on the bike, it's super easy to set it up, because again, as I said, handlebar and the stem are separate pieces. I know a lot of people are complaining about the ugly stem on this Giant Propel bikes, but this is just the result of aerodynamically optimized both handlebar and the stem. When it comes to the seat post on this bike, absolutely carbon fiber seat post, the Giant Vector, which is a must, and the Giant has included here. So this carbon fiber seat post, excellent stuff, aerodynamically optimized, and is definitely going to soak up some of the smaller road bumps. Saddle is the Giant's own production, Giant Fleet SL. Giant has some very good saddles, so since saddles are a personal preference, if you really don't like this one, you can easily replace it with any saddle that you prefer. But as it is, I'm expecting it to be a pretty decent saddle from Giant. Now let's talk about the group set on this bike. So you are getting a wireless group set from SRAM, and this is going to be SRAM Rival ETAP wireless group set. So 12-speed group set, no cables, you can adjust everything through an app. It's an absolutely brilliant group set, SRAM Rival ETAP, and I absolutely have no complaints about this group set. It's gonna work perfectly fine. I will just point out a few small details here. For example, the rear mech on this group set can accept the cassette all the way to 36 tooth cassette, so keep that in mind. And also, since we are speaking about the cassette, the one that's included here is a SRAM Rival 12-speed cassette, and this cassette is 1030. And this is paired with the crankset, which is the SRAM Rival crankset, 3548. So you see immediately with the 3548 crankset and also 1030 cassette, everything is focused on as going as fast as possible in a straight line. So if you want a bit more range so you can climb some mountains, then definitely this 1030 cassette should be replaced with 1036 cassette, and you can do it because this rear mech will accept it. And I would again suggest you to keep the SRAM rival cassette. The chain is a SRAM rival D1 chain, perfectly fine, no complaints here. And I will just mention then that when replacing this chain, I would again advise you to stick with SRAM chains just because of the compatibility with the cassette and the crankset. Speaking about this cassette, this is the SRAM rival XG1250 cassette. As I always like to say, it's a beautiful piece of design, but you gotta keep in mind that once when you need to replace this cassette, it will set you back approximately 125 euros or 125 US dollars, so it's a pretty pricey item to replace, so just keep that in mind. When we talk about the braking performance on this bike, everything is done by SRAM rival hydraulic disc brakes with the SRAM's Paceline rotors. So 160mm rotors at the front and unfortunately 140mm in the back. I have no clue why Giant does it. I would strongly recommend Giant to replace these 140mm braking rotors at the back with 160, and this is also my recommendation to you. Once when you destroy this rear braking rotor, just buy yourself a SRAM Paceline rotor 160mm, so you're gonna have 160mm front and the back. On this aerodynamically optimized bike, you want very good heat dissipation from your brakes and very good braking performance. So both braking rotors should have been 160mm. When we talk about the bottom bracket on this bike, well, you will have a SRAM dub bottom bracket. Compared to Shimano press fit bottom bracket, people are reporting a bit more creaking noises from this SRAM dub standard. Unfortunately, it is what it is because this bike, of course, comes with the SRAM rival crankset. Now let's talk about the wheels on this bike, which are definitely one of the highlights and kind of a secret sauce. So you are getting a superb Giant SLR1 carbon wheels. So these SLR1 carbon wheels, if you would buy them on the open market, would set you back 500 British pounds for the front wheel and 700 British pounds for the rear wheel. So definitely not a cheap wheel set, but it's an excellent wheel set. So as I said, carbon fiber wheel set with the Giant's hookless technology, tubeless ready. So you have 42mm rim height at the front and 65mm rim height at the back. Internally, this is 19.4mm, okay, a bit narrow, but that's kind of the standard with these aerodynamically optimized wheels. And the hubs on this wheel set are the Giant's own low friction hubs, front and the back. With the back hub, I have to mention it's a ratchet drive system, 32th system. You probably know the ratchet drive system from the DT Swiss hubs, which is absolutely great. When it comes to the spokes on this wheel set, superb Sapim CX Ray spokes, and also the total weight of this wheelset is very impressive, 1,452 grams. All in all, superb wheelset on this bike. I absolutely have no complaints about this wheelset. Now these wheels are wrapped in Giant Gavia AC1 tires. These are tubeless tires, 26.5mm effective width of the tire. But the good thing is that you can fit a 28mm tire on this bike. Personally, once when you destroy these tires, I would suggest you to fit a 28mm tire, just because you're going to have so much more air volume and your ride is going to be so much more smoother. As it is now, these 26.5mm tires are going to be perfectly fine. They are not mentioning here the total weight of this bike, but I would always expect in some kind of size medium-large that this bike is probably going to be somewhere around 8.3, 8.5 kilograms. So definitely, you can't expect the lightest of the bikes, because the whole point of this bike is aerodynamically optimized, all the components, and going as fast as possible in a straight line, and that's why you always pay a little bit of penalty when it comes to the total bike weight. So, in a summary, do I have any special complaints about this bike, and do I think you should buy it or you should just consider it? So, my only complaint about this bike is this rear braking rotor, which is only 140 millimeters. So this is my first recommendation to you. As I said, once when you destroy this braking rotor, I would definitely replace it with 160 millimeters braking rotor. Now when the question is, should you buy this bike or should you just consider it, I would say you should just consider it, because when you look at Giant's Propel advanced range, you have a very similar bike which I reviewed recently, which is a much better option for buying, and kind of the main biggest difference between these two bikes is the wheelset. So for this one, Giant Propel Advanced Pro 1, I would just say to consider it, because the retail price is 4,600 British pounds or 5,100 euros. So I think this is gonna be it for today. I hope you like what I'm doing, and if you do, please do subscribe and hit that little like button. And as always, I will see you soon in the next episode. Cheers!